The Wild format is Hearthstone's eternal format where your favorite decks throughout the game's history can be revisited. On some levels, this statement still rings true. However, there is a deck that continues to become problematic time and time again. Not to mention that this deck also has the most toxic mechanic within the entire game of Hearthstone. It may come as a surprise to you, but no, we will not be talking about everyone's favorite sickly gnome. Rather, we will be looking into the most toxic mechanic possible within the game, taking infinite turns. And the card that's responsible from this is the OG quest from Ungoro, Open the Waygate. Before we continue with this video, I wanted to let you guys know about a giveaway that I'm planning on doing if this channel can reach 6,000 subscribers before the next expansion goes live. I think that's pretty easy for this channel to do. It's about 500 if I remember correctly from this current point. So if we can get about 500 subscribers before the next expansion starts, I will be giving one lucky subscriber a free mega bundle on me. So if you guys want to have that chance, or if you just like this content at all, feel free to subscribe to the channel to be notified about any other future uploads that we happen to come out with. When Open the Waygate was first introduced, its original text required the player to play 6 randomly generated cards. But with how many random tools Mage has received since this expansion went live back in April of 2017, this card has already been rightfully nerfed once, requiring you now to play 8 random cards. Looking ahead at the current Wild Hearthstone metagame, Quest Mage is still one of the most dominant decks possible to play right now, sitting beside Pain Warlock and Aggro Pirate Rogue. To test the power of this deck, I started playing Quest Mage this week, and yeah, this deck might be a little bit of a problem to say the least. With barely 2 hours of gameplay, I'm already sitting at the gold ranks with a 12-3 record starting with a 5-star bonus. Half of my games were super simple, because the goal of this deck is not difficult to achieve, like at all. This deck really only has 3 steps when you analyze it. Draw your deck, play the coins, and finish the game with the Crest Reward. It's really that simple. The power of this deck is absolutely disgusting, and I'm not here to say that powerful decks can't exist, but this style of gameplay will always make for the worst style of Hearthstone games that you'll play throughout your entire year. Quest Mage is not just the worst deck to play against in Wild currently. It's been one of the worst gameplay experiences possible every time it becomes meta relevant. But there have been metas where Quest Mage was completely unplayable. During the glory days of the original Darkglare Warlock, the average deck would have set up their win condition by turn 4, turn 5, locking Quest Mage out of viability. However, during the metagames where aggro archetypes or hyper combos aren't the most common decks, Quest Mage will always run rampant. During my tryhard Wild days, I remember hitting rank 3 Legend with Quest Mage during the days where running Arcane Giants was actually the most consistent build, and it's kind of amazing how far we've strayed from that point in history. This combo used to be limited by the amount of damage you could stick onto the field in one turn, because back then you needed the 8/8s. It was the easiest way to set up lethal damage for the least amount of cards possible. All you needed were 2 Giants and an Echo of Medivh.
Did this guy really forget about me? Because the giants were only a small piece of the puzzle compared to the insane combos I could generate. This streamer must have purged the horrors I had shown him from his memory.
But now, Grey Sage Parrot allows for this to be the new norm. Very fun and very interactive, if I do say so myself. Quest Mage has evolved to the point where 0 mana 8/8s aren't even needed anymore. Just take a second to think about how 0 mana 8/8s are now useless. They are just laughably bad compared to what we have today. But now, the most problematic tools for Quest Mage are these cards. Remember the good old days where Quest Mages were super happy to win the coin flip for the extra spell to help progress their game plan? Yeah, well, now they just don't care about that because they can generate coins like literally nothing. Cards like Licensed Adventurer, Mailbox Dancer, and to a lesser extent, Commander Shavara can give you ridiculous access to 0 mana spells that not only give your deck more mana, but proc your quest effortlessly. If coins were no longer counted as a spell, then this would effectively kill the archetype as we know it currently. Mage still has plenty of ways of utilizing cheap random spells, such as Magic Trick, First and Second Flame, as well as Ray of Frost. But having this easy of access to coins really pushes the boundaries of what seems fair in this archetype. Because of the coins, it's possible to pull off this combo and win as early as turn 6. But if you're hoping for the spell tag to be removed from the coin, you might be on a bit too much copium because I can never envision this change happening. I feel like if there's going to be any changes to this archetype, it's going to be to one of these 3 cards. As we saw earlier, the potential of Grey Sage Parrot is freaking nuts. This card is the reason why Time Warp can be easily abused with little to no effort. Hell, if you play Grey Sage Parrot with Bran or with a Potion of Illusion, most games are just simply over. Because no deck can deal with 5 to 6 minions attacking 10 times in a row. And if you don't think that this mechanic is broken, or if you think that Quest Mage can be easily disrupted, just sit back and watch how I won this game with the deck. Needless to say, I should not have won that game, and the fact that it was possible to win from that point proves that this deck needs to be taken care of. And you should not be seeing this deck as the most popular deck on your Legend climb, because it's just gonna make for the worst gameplay experiences that you can possibly have. I'm still kinda confused why Blizzard decided to buff this card by 2 mana. That's a fourth of the cost of the card reduced. When this card was 8 mana, it was so much more difficult to run this in Quest Mage. It's no surprise that this card was buffed primarily for Standard, considering that Big Spell Mage was pushed so heavily in the Alterac Valley expansion. And it is good that this card was buffed so that way these kind of decks can see more time in the spotlight. However, in Wild, this card being 6 mana is just so problematic to the point where I wouldn't be surprised if this card gets reverted when it eventually rotates back to Wild. Because if they don't revert this card back to 8 mana when it reverts to Wild, it's gonna mean that Quest Mage is going to always be meta relevant unless they change the deck to some degree. Historically, this has got to be one of the most hated cards, if not the most hated card within the entire game. Ice Block has been a hot topic for conversation every time there is a viable combo deck for Mage. Decks like Freeze Mage, Highlander Mage, and Turtle Mage all use Ice Block to set up their ridiculous scams very consistently. Ice Block is literally what your older siblings would say to you when you were about to win. Nuh-uh, I get one more turn in order to do my thing. I don't lose yet. No. I'll go get mom. Don't make... And if it were up to me, this card would be changed in one of 3 ways. You could make this card a legendary spell. Because let's be honest, this kind of effect is considerably more powerful than most legendary spells we've seen in the past. It allows for this card to be randomly generated if Blizzard wants to keep that possibility alive, but you're not allowed to run more than one copy because of just how powerful this effect really is. They could remove Ice Block from the random generation pool so that way you could only play with the original 2 copies in your deck list. Many players have shared their grievances of dealing with 3, 4, even 5 Ice Blocks in one game. This change would still give cards like Commander Shavara a way to generate more copies if needed, but generally speaking, 2 Ice Blocks would be the limit. You could change the card's text to once per game when your hero takes fatal damage, prevent it, and become immune this turn. This suggestion was made by Martian Boo, a wild Hearthstone streamer that usually climbs in top 100 legend ranks. And this was his creative approach to changing the card. Making Ice Block into a legendary spell means that you can only run 1 copy, but keeping it an epic means that you have a better chance of being able to draw your Ice Blocks, hopefully giving you that extra turn you need to complete your combo. And I really do believe that Ice Block is a perfectly fine secret when you get to play it once or twice, but just the amount of times that Ice Block is the reason why Quest Mage can win is really frustrating. The main weakness of this card is supposed to be that if you have Ice Block and you're quickly drawing into your deck, suddenly if you end up taking fatigue damage, then you know that the game is lost. But half of the time, this deck doesn't even need to draw its entire deck in order to do this kind of combo, so that weakness just isn't there. The only weakness to Ice Block is cards like Flare or cards that get rid of secrets or just hyper aggro. So you either have to assume the worst when playing up against this deck to the point where you have to tech for it specifically using one card that probably isn't going to help you in all of your other matchups, or you literally have to play an entire archetype dedicated to countering this card. And I just don't believe that that is a healthy metagame for this deck to thrive in, and something needs to be done about it. If this quest becomes too powerful and wild, I imagine the easiest fix would be to bump up the amount of spells to 10 instead of 8. The average turn I was able to pop off with this combo was around turn 7 or turn 8, so adding 2 more cards may increase the average turn of the combo while keeping the spirit of the deck intact. But to have over 10 turns in a row is just straight up toxic for any archetype to have access to. Turtle Mage was pretty much nerfed for the exact same reasons, because having this consistent of methods to skipping turns will always make the other player feel like their choices don't matter, and interactivity in Hearthstone is number 1. Overall, I believe this quest has the single most toxic mechanic out of all the cards in Hearthstone, because no matter how you pitch it, a deck that could take over 10 turns in a row simply should not be this consistent for this little of effort. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. If you would like to suggest a topic for me to discuss, I will be choosing one comment in this video to create a whole new video essay for. So if you have any kind of topics or something specific in Hearthstone you wish for me to talk about, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to turn your comment into a legitimate video. And if you would like to support the channel for free, go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you want more videos just like these. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video, and we'll see you for the next one.